Hey y'all, welcome to A Place for KP. I am KP, and today I am hot on the trail of some history. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of, but not really. So I was walking around and I noticed this place, the cool Fredericksburg signs, and I was like, what is this? So we are going to explore together and see what we see. And I'm a fan of the FXBG because Fredericksburg is a really long word to write. I'm just saying. For those of y'all who enjoy things like normal things that look like faces, there you go. Building with a face. I know, it's random. Don't mind me. We have a beautiful green space here. Go Fredericksburg. Reducing those heat deserts. What are they called? I can't remember right now. My brain is fried. I had school all day and then an internship. So my brain is not working. But as usual, there's a crow in the tree. 2 of them actually. 3, 4. It's a whole family. And they're cawing at me. Crows don't like me. I don't know what that's about. But this place is nice. There's bathrooms. Very cool. I have to remember that from my excursions to the through the city when I need like public facilities. They're often hard to find. And we have here, it says, in loving memory, Farzin Sadeghi. Y'all do not get mad at me if I pronounce that wrong. I'm so sorry. But you can see the name, and there's a really blurred out picture. Sorry, y'all. It says a distinguished and gracious Persian American architect, engineer, and artist. Wonderful. I love it. He's right in my field. Thank you very much, sir, for being who you were. We've come across this beautiful little water feature. I believe what I was trying to think of earlier was the heat island phenomenon. Reducing the heat island phenomenon. I think I found my words, perhaps. Oh, exciting. Look, we just happened upon stuff about cemeteries. Isn't that cool? Tell me, y'all, what are the chances of that happening? I'm just wandering along, moseying down the road, and in search of history, we suddenly find something about cemeteries. Y'all know that's my thing. All right, so let's see what this says. First, just a brief look. We've got some images of what looks like cemetery gates. We've got a historic map. Gotta love our maps. With a nice little map key. And some cool words. We'll see what they say in a second. All right. Fredericksburg Cemeteries and the Corporation Burying Ground. Okay, so I just did a video at the Liberty Town. If you didn't see that video, you should check it out. It's a video on Liberty Town, which was the African American town here in the Fredericksburg area. It was annexed into Fredericksburg in like the 1800s, I think. And there was a cemetery in Liberty Town that was originally like an African American cemetery. And then they did some Confederate burials there, I believe. And then they picked up everyone that was in that cemetery and moved them to the Shiloh Cemetery. I wonder if they moved the Confederate soldiers to Shiloh, or if they moved them somewhere else. But on that historic marker, they mentioned this corporation burying ground thing, I think. Oh no, that's not what happened. I remember now. Something in that video made me think of John Hurkamp, who was a German immigrant in Fredericksburg, who was like a politician, business owner. He did some major stuff business-wise in the area. And internationally, actually. And he had a park, the Hurkamp Park here in Fredericksburg, that was a cemetery. The cemetery fell into disrepair, and that cemetery was connected with this corporation burying ground. I think when the corporation burying ground went out of business or something, that cemetery became neglected, and eventually they had it moved and turned the area into a park. So, corporation burying ground. Look at us putting history together. I'm no expert on Fredericksburg history, so I'm pulling the pieces together just like you are. So hopefully this fills in some of my gaps. All right, so we have an image here, the Confederate Cemetery on Washington Avenue. I have been there a couple times with my classes. We have the Fredericksburg City Cemetery on William Street. I do not think I have been there, or are they? That's the same cemetery, right? Same cemetery, different entrances. That's what it is. They kind of are split down the middle, but they share like one piece of land. And they have one entrance, this entrance on William Street, that stays closed because it's not safe. And then they have this entrance on an opposing street that is for the Confederate Cemetery, but you can go through this entrance to access both cemeteries. That's not confusing, is it? All right. And then we have the St. George's Church Cemetery entrance on Princess Anne Street. I have been to this cemetery. Let's see. Let me turn this around. I think it was like my second semester at school here at the University of Mary Washington that I took a class. It was an English class, really, about death. What was that class called? I can't remember. Something about death, but it was basically looking at literature and various writers' approaches to death, the process of dying, the afterlife, sickness, all of those things associated with death. Really an interesting class. I'll have to figure out what the name of that class was. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. It was taught by a professor. Can't remember her name either. Anyway, I try not to share my professors' names in these videos, but if you know me, you know my school, you probably know my professors, even without me saying anything. So there's that. All right, so let's continue reading. So I did visit this cemetery for a project in that class on death. We had to visit a cemetery. I originally wanted to go to the Masonic cemetery here, but they keep that cemetery locked. And when I sent an email to the Masonic group here, they never responded. Poo-poo on you. I still love you guys, but I really wish you would have responded. But I can understand. It's a very old cemetery. It's probably like the oldest Masonic cemetery in the area. Maybe in the whole United States, something like that. Some of the headstones are in disrepair. Like you can look over their stone gate and sort of see what's going on in there. So yeah, I wish I could get in, but that's a story for another day. Anyway, so yeah, I couldn't get into the Masonic cemetery. So instead, I walked just a couple blocks over and found this cemetery. And I was like, well, let me just go in here. I've never been into a church cemetery that was this small, so it was nice. And they had some major disrepair happening. They also had some conservation happening, but they have some pretty old burials, so you can expect things to not be perfect. All right, this says the park around you once was, y'all, as you know from previous videos, sometimes I get tongue-tied. Let's try it again. The park around you was once known as the Corporation Burying Ground. Burials occurred here from 1787 through 1853 and included Dr. Charles Mortimer, who had been Mary Washington's personal physician. He also served as Fredericksburg's first mayor under the 1781 charter granted by the Virginia Assembly, independent of the British Crown. Okay, Fredericksburg's first mayor, independent of the British Crown. Following the Civil War, the graves and stones were removed from the cemetery, converted to its current use as Hurkamp Park. Yeah, that was another reading error. That was like I stopped for processing. Like I read that out loud, but that didn't make sense. It's amazing, like the difference one conjunction can make. All right, following the Civil War, the graves and stones were removed and the cemetery converted to its current use as Hurkamp Park. Bro, this is Hurkamp Park. You kidding me? Wow. There was not one sign outside or anything telling me that this was Hurkamp Park. I thought they had a giant gate or something, like a historic gate. All my pictures of the place showed a historic gate. There's like 4 different walkways here though, so maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see anything. So all that talk I just did about Hurkamp and the corporation burying ground, and this is the park. Oh, I love it when history comes together. Isn't it just beautiful? All right. So it says Fredericksburg encompasses many cemeteries, most of which are open to the public, except for the Masonic Cemetery. Collectively, they illustrate the broad patterns of history, including colonial settlement, independence from Britain, the Civil War, the African American experience, and foreign wars. The Veterans Memorial is not a cemetery, but a list of those who died in distant wars. Potter's Field is no longer in use. Some names are memorialized there, but most are not. Okay, and if you watch the video that I did on Liberty Town, which is not a true walk through Liberty Town, just to be clear, I was really looking for that cemetery site, but I think we got as close as we're going to get for today, or that day I should say. But that area there had a cemetery that was a Potter's Field, from what I understand, and that's first was a Potter's Field, then became the African American Cemetery, then they added Confederate burials, and then everything was moved out of that space, and now it's like this Veterans Memorial space, from what I understand. I could have some of that space wrong because I'm walking the area without a map, and I do not have a photographic memory to remember where things are, but I think we got pretty close. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around. Here's a list of cemeteries. This is really good. I'm going to take a picture of this because I want to visit all of the cemeteries in the area. I have a goal to visit all the cemeteries in Virginia and work my way around. Let me move my camera out the way. Okay, I want to work my way around the East Coast, DC, head towards Tennessee, Kentucky, those areas. And the main goal of getting towards New Orleans, that's like my bucket list cemetery. I want to visit the cemeteries in New Orleans. And here's your map. Some of these are teeny tiny, some of them not so much. Let's see, number 9 is, it says the Colored Cemetery. Yeah, Barton Street. The Old Cemetery. Something. You know the names on this. This is a historic map. Right, so the names on this don't match up with the names for today. Which is why I'm looking at it, because it's really interesting to look at what things were once called and where things once were. It's through studying historic maps that a lot of times you can learn where cemeteries used to be, and maybe in 1920 something there was a cemetery in one location, and then by 1940 it's no longer there on the map, and you're like, what happened? Was it moved? Did they build over top of it? Did people forget there was a cemetery there? What exactly took place? And that's how people actually discover a lot of historic sites. Not always, but it helps. Look how beautiful. Enjoying nature for a minute, because it talks so much. Sometimes it's nice just to listen. I feel like this should be like one of those ASMR videos or like nature videos where you listen to like rain or storms or something. Okay, so I've read about Hurkamp Park so much, but I've never actually seen it. Oh, water fountains too, I'm thirsty. This is not what I envisioned when I envisioned Hurkamp Park. I actually envisioned something grander than what I'm standing in the middle of. So it's nice to be in this space. All right, we have another historic sign from burying ground to a park. There we go, look at that. I should have visited here when I did my research paper on Mr. Hurkamp. See his name, John G. or J.G. Hurkamp. There, that's the sign or the little gate that I remember. Like I remember seeing it in historic documents, but it's not here. Maybe this will tell us what happened to it. All right, we have a quote here from the then mayor in 1824. It says, on motion made and seconded, resolved unanimously that the new burying ground be enclosed with brick. I mean, I see some bits and pieces of brick wall. I wonder if those are the historic brick that was here. We have a very modern wooden fence. All right, let's keep going. Oh, that's funny. This dude is buried in the Masonic Cemetery. Okay. It says John Hurkamp resided at 406 Hanover Street. That is one of the properties that I investigated from 1862 until his death in 1886. This ornamental cast iron fence and gate, which is still standing at the above address, bears Hurkamp's name. Both this fence and the park gate were designed by Benjamin Bowering. There, so y'all can see the name, I'm not sure exactly, and cast at the Hope Foundry of Fredericksburg. Cool. In 1883, John Hurkamp donated a cast iron gate bearing the name Hurkamp Park in raised letters. This circa 1900 photo shows this gate as well as the brick wall along the western edge of the park. The brick wall on the remaining three sides was removed in 1898, there we go, and the metal gate is believed to have succumbed to a scrap metal drive during World War II. Well, that explains a lot. Y'all, it's amazing what you can learn when you actually read these little historic markers. They're not just here to like ignore, which I'm guilty of doing it too. How many times have I gone to like a battlefield park or something and seen hundreds of markers and walked past every single one of them without like a second glance, right? But there's actually some really interesting history on that. It explains a lot about how an area has evolved over time. Like just here, learning about the fence or the gate, the brick gate that was here, brick wall that was here, and how it was removed. Let me see. I have a compass. I'm just going to see which way is the west. The sun is over here, so it's probably over there because it's on its downward descent, and it is hot in my face. Can y'all tell? Am I glistening? I think I'm glistening. Anyway, let's see. Yep, that's the west. Look at that. Sun for the win. All right, so I'm going to turn this directly into the sunlight because I'm not the only one who should suffer for these videos. So that's where the wall was taken down. So there was an original brick wall there. I guess the gate would have been over here, probably at this little entrance down here, because that is still technically sort of west. It's like southwest, but it's still sort of west-ish. And there's no other pathway. There's one here, but that leads out into a parking lot on the side of a building. That seems like a bad place for a gate. They probably wanted a more public-facing gate, and that's the closest we get to the west. And it is sort of facing the road-ish. Okay, so now that we know that, mystery solved. In 1774, St. George's Parish purchased the land around you for a cemetery. This is the land around us. In all honesty, it's not a very large cemetery, right? I mean, of course, you'd be surprised how many burials you could fit in such a small space. There are people approaching, just so you know, so we'll see what happens. I might have to tone it down. We'll see. Following the American Revolution and disestablishment of the Anglican Church in Virginia, the Fredericksburg government appropriated this land for a public burying ground. We've seen this in other signs out here. The western lot line of the cemetery, marked by a brick wall, is visible to your right, which is what we just looked at over here. In 1875, the town council decided to convert the increasingly neglected grounds into a park and directed the removal of headstones and graves to other cemeteries. As I have questioned in other videos, I wonder where they moved those graves to. The new park opened July 12, 1881, named in honor of prominent local businessman John G. Hurkamp, who I have mentioned before. I researched for a historic deed research project. In 1860, St. George's Church had petitioned the council to investigate its claim to the property, but the Civil War interrupted this process. The issue resurfaced in 1953 when the rescue squad sought to lease a portion of the park. By then, public usage over several generations had established legal ownership. Hurkamp Park remains public. So it sounds like St. George's Parish bought the land in 1774. No idea how it went from that to something the city council could just take over and declare it to be like cemetery that they could just remove or whatever. It doesn't really get into what we saw in this other thing about, let me see what it's called, I forgot that quick, about the corporation burying ground. It doesn't get into them and their ownership and when they took ownership on this particular historic thing. The one over here says, yeah, the one over here doesn't say either. In fact, it doesn't tell us at all why this corporation is even being mentioned. Look at that, critical thinking. It just says it was once known as the corporation burying ground, but it was also once known as the St. George's Parish property. So are those one and the same owners or not? I'm not sure. So I'm not sure how city council can take over property that belonged to a church or to the corporation. A lot depends on if that corporation was connected with the church or not. It sounds like the corporation was a separate entity that somehow got ownership of the property. What we learned from a different historic sign at a different site was that that corporation seemed to go bankrupt. And were not able to care for the property anymore. So perhaps the cemetery at that time was considered a property without owners, in which case I suppose city council can step in. Do cemeteries revert back to city owners? I mean, I've seen this happen in modern days where a cemetery is privately owned and then the owners go bankrupt and that cemetery goes through a huge legal process to get reverted back. Not even reverted, sometimes just placed into the hands of the city or sometimes the state. Okay, so I guess it is that the city maintains care and ownership of the space. There's no real information about any of that. I'm always interested in that. It's not like I need to know the answers, but when I walk through and look at stuff like this, I like to consider various questions. Especially being a minority, I like to think of things from the perspective of big guy versus little guy. Like I'm in charge, I make all the rules. I'm going to disenfranchise you in some way. I'm going to take what's yours, kind of thing. Because that has often been the history in the United States. It's controversial. A lot of people don't like to think about that, but it is what it is, right? History has shown that there are powerful people in charge who take advantage of those who are not powerful, who are not in charge. And that's unfortunate. But I always approach history from this perspective, because we have to ask some questions like, who is telling this story? Who is presenting this story to you? Because we're getting it from their perspective, right? You may not always get history from the perspective of people who were taken advantage of. And I'm not saying that's the case here. We're just talking hypotheticals here. You're not getting history from the perspective of people who are marginalized, who were taken advantage of, who, in the case of Black people, who were enslaved. There's a lot to consider. Who is telling the story? What bias might that person, place, organization, entity have when they present this story? What is their connection to history? What historically happened to them? What was their role in this country? And then what are they doing today? Like, what are they trying to accomplish today? Is there an agenda that we are not aware of because we haven't done our research yet? So all of these things I sort of think through when I visit historic places. I don't always get into it, right? Because it is controversial. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. But as a historic preservation major, it definitely is something I have to consider. A lot of my projects force me to consider it, and I'm happy to do so. It just so happens that I have a very critical brain when it comes to these kind of things, and it's very easy for me to point out power imbalances and areas where things didn't happen perhaps the way they should have, or where people were overlooked, exploited, taken advantage of in some way. I don't know why, but I just have a very good BS meter. I'm allowed to magically see what's going on. A lot of times before the people around me know what's happening. And I mean that for like today, modern things, not just looking at history, but I also can do it just when I'm talking with people and learning what they have to say about stuff. A lot of you out there can probably do it too, right? You know when someone's throwing you a story that doesn't quite connect, doesn't quite make sense. So there's that. All right, I'm going to turn this around because you're probably tired of looking at my ugly mug. Just kidding, I'm beautiful. Yes, we are all beautiful in our own way. This says, in memory of my wife, Karen Peters Zirkle, and my son, Richard Lyndon Zirkle. So another mystery for me, not being from the Fredericksburg area. Who are the Zirkles? Why do they have anything laid out to them? I'm just realizing I have driven past this park 1,000,001 times, y'all. I've even parked all around it and never knew it was a park. I have taken pictures of this love sign from the street. Let's see. It says love Fredericksburg, love arts. Oh no, it's L Arts. Oh, downtown, V River, E culinary. I don't know what that, it doesn't make any sense to me at all, but that's okay. It's what they wanted to do. The sculpture aims to keep aesthetically and metaphorically balanced by using natural and man-made elements representing history and tradition, along with development and cultural change. That's cool. I did not know you were supposed to do that. It says share your photos on social media with hashtags. Hashtag LoveVA, hashtag LoveFredericksburg, hashtag VisitFred. I have seen these historic, I don't know why I said historic. They will be one day if they stay up. I have seen these love signs all over Virginia. I did not know it was like a hashtagable thing. This is really cool. So that's what they meant. The L equals arts. So we have all the art stuff on here. The O is downtown, which is not much happening. It is the opposite of what I expect for downtown. It's just like wood and paint. Okay. Is there anything on the side of this O? Oh, it's like aluminum or something. Alrighty. Fredericksburg, I love you. I'm just going to say, zhuzh up your O just a little bit. Maybe because I'm not from here, I'm missing the downtown significance. That could be it. But as an outsider, I expect more from your O. All right, I'm just joking, only a little bit. V is supposed to represent the river. I could see that. So we got like water with boats. Okay, like kayaks, I guess. I love kayaking. Sidebar, kayaking is great. And E represents culinary. I mean, you can't miss culinary from this, right? Love it. Love it. Let me see if I can grab a picture with my phone while I'm out here, and then I've got to hit the road soon because it's getting late. I just realized this was supposed to be a short visit and it's turned into like a thing. Zoom out. No, zoom. There we go. Love. I would break into song. Y'all don't know I love to sing at like random intervals and for no apparent reason. I could find a song that like goes with anything. But if I can turn this around, unfortunately, when you post videos to YouTube, they like to check for copywritten content. And songs apparently are copywritten. Like what? Who would have thunk it? I'm joking, y'all. Of course I know it's copywritten. But it makes me very sad as someone who loves to sing for no apparent reason. Yay, cheese. It makes me sad to like have to not sing spontaneously. But a lot of y'all are probably happy about that, right? You're like, woo, we don't have to see or hear or listen to this. I do know there are people that don't like to like sing at all or think they can't. I was trying to get a good picture with the whole love in the background. It's hard to do. My arm is not like long enough, bruh. I keep trying, keep on trying. It's not happening. That's all right. Can I do it with this camera? Zoom out, zoom out. No. Nah. Oh well, we tried. Okay. Well, that is the Hurkamp Park. Beautiful space. Cool little pathway. Oh, look, there's another thing on this side of the bench. They just got little memorials everywhere. It says, in loving memory of Kathleen O'Bannon. I wonder if all these benches have something on them. There's so many benches. I'm not going to visit them all. But maybe that's a cool thing for y'all to do one day. If you happen to be in the area, check out Hurkamp Park benches and memorials. See what's what. Grabbing some pictures with my phone because it's cool. This is a really nice space. Very peaceful. I haven't seen a ton of people, and the ones I have seen have been very kind and polite, not super loud. Of course, we have our bathroom space, which is always nice, and a water fountain. It's a good space for the homeless community. That sounds weird, maybe, but I'm doing a sociology project this semester, working with, let me turn this around, there. I'm doing a homeless project where I'm working with a group in Fredericksburg. They're like what's the word? Not like an oversight group, an umbrella organization. I don't know. They sort of receive government funds to assist with providing homeless assistance, sheltering assistance, whatever. Sometimes that comes in the shape of food or jobs or whatever people need to like get back on their feet. But we just had a guy come in and talk to us today from there. I'm purposely not including like the name of the organization because I don't know if I have their permission to talk about it publicly. Oops. Does that drop everything? But if you're from the area, you probably know who they are. But anyway, the project this year, we're doing like a gaps analysis to figure out if they're meeting the needs of the homeless community and if there's anyone being missed or overlooked, any underserved populations. And so I have like homelessness on my mind because of that. And so when I think of this park, like it's peaceful, it's shady right now in the summer, there's bathroom access, which probably means sink access where you can wash up. And there's water fountains so you can get free drink and you can literally lay out here. There's little, I don't know why I'm trying to turn it that way. Let's flip it this way. There's like these little areas here that are kind of enclosed, semi-private, even though they're like on street corners. So you could like, you know, lay out a blanket or something like that and have a nice place to rest for the night, especially loud traffic, sorry. Especially on a day like this where it's really windy and relaxing. You've got shade from the sun. I mean, I don't have shade from the sun, but someone else might if they choose the right location. And it's not too cold at night just yet, so you could have a nice place to camp out and rest during the day. You know, stop by the library, get yourself a book to read, come out here, read, relax. I mean, it sounds crazy to say like relax when you're homeless, but you've got to relax, right? You got to take a moment to take it easy. I've been what they consider houseless, modern homeless, where you don't necessarily have your own place. I've been in the situation where I was looking at maybe splitting my family up because there was no family shelter available. And so there was like men and women. So like I could take my girl, my husband could take the boy, and like we'll see each other when we see each other. I haven't been like truly homeless for any length of time. I've couch surfed and stayed with family members for extended periods of time. We've had as many as 6 people living in a 2-bedroom home. Like, it's been a lot. I can't truly understand what it means to be homeless, but I definitely feel some sympathy and empathy with people who are experiencing that. So I definitely have it on my mind. This project we're working on is close to my heart. It's neither here nor there in regards to what I was trying to do today, but sometimes this happens. You know, you start out thinking about one thing and end up on another track. Another car. So that's that. Anyway, we have visited the Hurkamp Park behind me. I'll go back over here and turn this around. One last look before I hit the road. Thank you for walking with me, for listening to me, for being attentive to these videos. I hope that I get more interesting as videos go along. My cemetery videos are kind of different, so you may not get the same experience, but I hope that today was interesting, especially when you consider how much reading I do of historic markers. That can be boring for some people. I try to make it fun and interesting. If not, you think it's totally boring, give me suggestions in the comments for how I can make it better. Just remember, I'm not doing huge productions. These are on the fly, mostly, usually kind of partially unedited videos. It depends, but I try to keep it like that. And they're presented from the viewpoint of someone who's interested and learning about history, not someone who's an expert on history. So hopefully you can connect with that in some kind of way. All right, y'all, thank you for joining me on my journey. It was fun, it was real fun. I didn't do that in order, but that's okay. Thanks for joining me on A Place for KP, and I will see you next time. Bye.